Ojai Planning Commission for February 16th, 2022. Sherry, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Quilisi?
Here.
Vice Chair Nolan?
Here.
Commissioner Lottis?
Here.
Commissioner Trent?
Here.
Commissioner Bennett?
Here.
Thank you.
Excellent. We have a full quorum. For the Pledge of Allegiance, Vice Chair Nolan, would you lead us, please?
Yes.
Pop up that picture.
Yeah, I'm waiting for.
There you go.
There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next, we have public communications. Time set aside for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Sherry, do we have anyone in the waiting room or hands raised that wants to speak about other than agenda items?
I don't see any, no.
Okay.
Oh, hold on, let me look here. Okay, no.
No. All right. Well, we will move on then to the consent item, the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning Commission for January 16th. Recommendation is approved as submitted. I gave Sherry, I think, a couple of nits that did not change the sense of anything, I think. Did any other commissioner have any refinements to the meeting minutes of January 16th?
Just page 3, excuse me, page 3 at the top. The reference should be to for the conversion of 2 office spaces to 1 live work unit. And it should be plural. Just
unit,
minor.
not units. Errata that I missed. Thank you. Anyone else? Could we have a motion regarding the minutes of January 19th then, please?
So moved.
Approval moved. Vice Chair Nolan?
Oh, second the motion.
Second the motion. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Sherry, call the roll on item 1, please.
Quilisi?
Yes.
Nolan?
Yes.
Lottis?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Thank you.
Excellent. We'll move on to item 2, a discussion item, concept review CR 21-003 regarding property on Olive Street. Lucas, would you tell us about that?
Yep. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Lucas Seibert, Community Development Director for the City of Ojai. The concept review before this commission and to be heard by the Planning Commission tonight for feedback and input is being recommended by staff at the request of the applicant to be continued off calendar. The reason why is that there have been several proposed changes now identified since the release of the report between what the plans the applicant originally submitted depict and what the applicant now states is envisioned and practical from an operations and financing standpoint for the property owner. Additionally, a courtesy neighborhood notice provided by the Community Development Department reminding the neighborhood of this important opportunity to provide feedback and input included an incorrect date for the concept review to be heard. For these reasons, the item is being recommended by staff to be continued to address and would then be placed on a future Planning Commission agenda and then re-notification provided to the neighborhood. These notifications, while they're not required, they're an excellent opportunity for the community to become aware of these concept reviews and to kind of provide that feedback and kind of see a preliminary look. In this case, while all the information is there, I think it's safe to assume that what you're going to end up seeing as a new concept could be either drastically different, minor differences. At this point, it's hard to provide comment and feedback on something that the applicant and the property owner identifying will be different. So with that, staff's recommending continuance off calendar, not date certain, and I can answer any questions of the commission at this point.
Any questions from commissioners?
I would also like to make one point before comments or questions from commission is we should also open it up for public input. I do see one attendee now in the audience, so just be mindful of that as well.
You did announce on the city website today about the recommended continuance. So,
I did too. We did it through social media as well as the individual comments that came in that are part of that was sent also to the commission. Each of those commenters, I provided this response as well, and then answered questions that came through as well.
Okay. And Epi, I guess you would agree, Epi, that it's appropriate here to have public comment, even though none of us presently know what the details of the proposal are.
Correct.
Okay.
That's because yeah, I can elaborate on that, but public comment is, it's for the commission, but it's also an opportunity for members of the public to discuss if they have any concerns about the project, whatever those would be.
And the public will have another chance to comment on this as a concept review, and perhaps additional chances if it comes back as a DRP or some other request.
Some other formal application, yes.
Right. Okay. And Commissioner Bennett, you had a question? I thought I saw your hand raised.
I just wondered if one of the changes is change in ownership. Are you getting a sense of that? No. Okay. Thank you. I note that there was a change of ownership. The two parcels, and now it's two parcels, are separately owned and have separate identification. Whereas that was not the case previously.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be able to provide clarification once I get
Right.
confirmation from the property owner on that.
Yeah.
Okay. If there are no other questions for staff at this point, I have a couple. I want to perhaps preface the public comment by asking a couple of simple sort of foundational questions of Lucas. First of all, there is a CUP in existence on this collection of parcels right now, correct?
Correct.
And the code specifies that a CUP could become null and void if the work was not started timely, which it was 20 years ago, so that's out. But if the applicant wishes to make changes to the CUP, then they have to come back and ask about that. But the CUP as it stands is still active. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Well, let's open this discussion item for public comment. Sherry, do we have people waiting to speak?
We have one person in attendance with no hand raised.
Yep.
Okay. I know we got a bunch of correspondence. Thank you for sending that to everyone. If there's no one else that wishes to speak, then we'll close the period of public comment. And I would ask, what's the sense of the commission at this point? The recommendation is that we continue this, as Lucas said, off calendar. That's an alternative term to a date uncertain, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Vice Chair Nolan?
I'm in favor of continuing the item.
Okay. Anyone wish to make a motion to that effect?
I will.
Vice Chair Nolan?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we continue concept review CR 21-003 to a date uncertain.
Terrific. Second from
I'll second.
Commissioner Lottis. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Sherry, would you call the roll on item 2 then?
Chair Colisi,
Yes?
Vice Chair Nolan,
Yes.
Commissioner Lottis,
Yes.
Commissioner Trent,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And my compliments to the staff on the package that you did put together. I could see at least one error in the parceling, we'll call it. And I want to go through it some more, and satisfy myself about all the conditions of the original CUP. But thank you for a fine detailed job. All right, let's move on to item 3 then, future agenda items. Lucas?
Thank you, Chair Quillisi. So we have coming up here for March 2nd, it's showing an appeal of a director's decision of a lot line adjustment and variance at 803 Country Club. It's actually a minor variance. That item, I've just spoken with the appellant, and they will not be available for the 2nd. So they're actually asking for that meeting, or for that item to be pushed to the 16th, which then leaves open the opportunity for an item, cannabis, to be discussed by this commission and this body. So I'm seeing that sliding into place here nicely as a discussion item for this body.
Refresh my memory, if you would. What's the issue with cannabis now? We have 3 dispensaries and at least 1 manufacturing facility, I think, in town. What's the question that we're to look at?
Yep, it's exploring the option of like an overlay into the C1 potentially, as well as a retail kind of storefront aspect to that as well. I think those are the 2 kind of heavy hit items that you could see as an overview. I don't want to get too much into it because I think it's going to be a good discussion piece. And in addition to that, I'm going to provide some history with this.
Is that being driven by an applicant?
No, this was provided. So there was a city council meeting, I want to say back in November, that provided direction for specific items to be brought to this body. And so now we're gearing up for that.
Okay. I confess I have not been to any of the 3 dispensaries, but I had the impression that they were retail outlets. Did I miss something?
No, they have that aspect. I think really what you're looking at is for it to potentially be with. So it's only really allowed. I don't want to get too much into it because we're starting to, but it's within the M1 or MPD,
Right.
and that's really the core area. You end up going elsewhere, you've got to start looking at some state regulations that speak to like
Okay.
distances around sensitive receptors like schools and daycare centers, stuff like
Should
that.
be interesting. Okay. And then we'll continue to do general plan updates all the way along. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't specify the general plan update that we would be discussing, but I think next on the document is either environmental justice, or I don't think we've talked about noise yet either.
Neither one.
Yeah, so
One
of those will be on for March 2nd.
I'm really curious to find out what environmental justice is.
It should be a riveting discussion.
I'm sufficiently ignorant that I don't know whether I should be in favor or against it.
And just to give you the 30 seconds on environmental justice as it relates to this general plan update, it is not its own element. It will be sprinkled throughout each of the elements within the general plan.
Okay, so it'd be more of a philosophical discussion.
Correct.
Okay.
But you've also got to understand some of the, it's not something that's old or has been in place for a long time. I want to say 2016.
Brand new this year.
2000. Well, it's new to us, but it's been around for a few years.
Okay.
General plans are now required to implement it. So
Got it. All right. Any questions from other commissioners about the future agenda? We've got, looks like March is pretty well set.
Yeah, I know there are a couple other items that could sneak into the 16th. We'll see what happens. If I get key pieces of information in by then, you may see another item on the 16th.
One thing I would be curious about, have you received a final historic resources report on the El Roblar project?
I would prefer that we talk about that during commission comments versus the
Okay.
agenda.
That's fine.
That's okay. Okay. I can provide an update during that point too.
Sounds good. Any other questions from commissioners about the future agenda items? Let's move on to commission members' reports. Anyone have anything interesting for the rest of us? I confess I have nothing interesting. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one comment. When I had a couple of people call me about the zone change 21001 that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Is
And
that 309 North Blanche?
yes, I think that's it. I think that's the address, the old church property.
Yes.
I just ask that when the staff report comes out, I'm hoping that the staff report will make it very clear what the densities are for the R2 zone, and if you're talking about any other zoning options, to make that very clear what the density is allowed, both under the general plan and the zoning designations, and presumably those are consistent, and what the allowable ADU possibilities are. Just I felt that at our meeting, I'm not sure we actually had really good clarity on that, and I think when it goes to the council, I ask that it be make sure that that's real clear. Thanks. Thank you.
The allowable densities in R2 and R3, I mean.
And VMU.
And VM, okay.
I mean, I'm assuming if you are talking about any other options other than R2 in the staff report.
Yeah, okay. Very, very reasonable request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think
well,
it's actually an amendment to
yes.
Commissioner Lottis. I think we also need to understand what the ADU allowances or obligations are in terms of buildings under BMU, R3 and R2.
Are you running that as an informational item? Is that, or are you talking about it as it relates?
Well, if I'm reading this conversation correctly, that there may be some discussion concerning our action to make that an R2 property, and if there is, that context will be important.
Well, there certainly was a lot of swirling social media around the decision that we made.
Oh, was there? No.
Oh, yeah. Well, look at the Nextdoor website.
Okay.
I would be curious to understand from Lucas or from Epi what the rules are for a particular piece of property. I understand under SB 9 you can split a piece of property, but if you haven't split it, there's still an allowable number of, I guess, primary residences allowed under R2 or R3. And I don't know if it stays all one, if a particular parcel stays all one parcel with more density as allowed by R2 or R3. Do any of those primary residences get to have ADUs? Because I know a primary residence on a single parcel all by itself gets to have one by right, by established state law. But if someone had a parcel and it was zoned, in this case R2, and they could put, say, two primary residences on a half acre, does each primary residence get an ADU of its own? It's just a hypothetical question that I'm kind of curious about, because I don't think that case is covered in the code right now. At least if it is, it's not clear to me. 10.2.1709 goes into a lot of detail, but not that particular detail. So, any other questions from staff or comments from staff? I thank you for yours, Lucas. If there are none, then we turn to our superior being from the City Council, Mr. Haney.
Oh, you muted yourself. There we go.
Thank you, Steve.
There you go.
So I had it was interesting that you asked that question, Steve, because I had the same thing about bringing back a clarification of either under R2 or R3, what are the rights associated to SB 8, 9, and 10. So I think that's a very important question to ask. And then the other question I wanted to talk about that, I think Catherine was asking for numbers that made sense too. Also, I think the number of R2s in the community and R3s, I think would be important to know. I remember in your discussion and deliberations that Kathy Nolan had brought up the fact that we had some R3s already, and they weren't there weren't a lot of them, and they were spread out through the community. So it would just be interesting to me to see how many we actually have versus R2. We're not going to get into R1 because that's obviously the most used zoning that we have, but I think it'd be important to know that. Aside from that, you guys just deliberate like there's no tomorrow. I can't believe you got through this agendas package as fast as you did tonight. I'm always blown away by what you do. So I'll leave it at that until the next meeting.
Thank you for the kind words. This is a superior group of commissioners, and it makes being chair really easy because people are not at all leery of providing comments, and not at all leery of disagreeing about things without being disagreeable. And it's a pleasure to be on the commission. So thank you.
You know, one last word on that is, you know, it's important when when a council member goes to appoint someone for the, you know, for a commission, that they look at obviously the qualities that individual brings, but an important aspect of it is, are those qualities and are those individuals equal to the task of what is already existing? So, and we don't talk about that very often. We always, oh, well, someone nominated them and we're just going to pass them through. But most of us, if we're doing our job, we're looking at the existing commission, how it functions, and do we feel that this individual will be an asset? Because I think it's important. That's why you have the group that you have today.
Well, we have a wide range of backgrounds, but everyone on the commission takes the job seriously and looks at the details. And that's what I think the council needs from us. So thank you. There being no other apparent business before the commission, I declare us adjourned at 6:24 p.m. That's got to be a record. Thank you all.
So, thank you, Chair Quillisi.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Thank you, Chair.